Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. And I'm like, it's a busy morning here in the neighborhood. Yes, the workers are working on the cell tower, trying to put a fence around it, which is a good thing because I saw somebody trying to break into it the other night. You know, they have these steps that go up to the top, and kids want to go over there and climb it. I know it's scary. Oh, can I show it to you? Wait a minute, it's back there. You see the cell tower back there? Yeah, it's huge. Now Stitch is hiding under the car because there's so much activity going on. They're putting up a fence and yeah, so busy morning. Anyway, I've got a really good show for you today. We're going to talk about the Pelosi break-in and attack. There's some interesting details that you're going to want to know because there's going to be 2 trials coming up. Good morning, everybody. Crafting Journey here, that Journey Chick on Instagram, and on my other second YouTube channel, The Leftovers. The link to that channel is down in the description. And my co-host today is Stitch, who's sound asleep, not helping one single bit. Yeah. Don't forget to hit the like button today as you're watching. And if you're enjoying the content, please consider subscribing. It's absolutely free. I don't charge you a thing. And the notification bells, you want to hit that. You want to hit all so you don't miss a single episode of Crafting and Crime Daily. Yeah. So, a little explanation about what happened yesterday. Where were the animals? Yes, I know. Here's what happened. And by the way, I never said Happy Halloween yesterday. Happy Halloween. Like I said, I was in a mood. The mood was because I was sleeping so good. And about 6 o'clock in the morning, Tiffany, my neighbor, she had a late night visitor apparently, who decides to leave at 6 o'clock in the morning on his motorcycle, or her motorcycle, somebody's motorcycle, like, oh my God. So of course it woke me out of a sound sleep. And then he had to go around the block at least once. It was so loud. So it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm wide awake. Pitch black outside, but I just go through my usual routine and walk the dogs and the animals. And we went for our normal walk, Stitch included, but it was pitch black outside. Literally. Stitch at one point during the walk ran up a tree, and I wanted to get footage of him up the tree because my first thought was, oh my God, how's he going to get down? Am I going to have to call the fire department at 6:15 or 6:20 in the morning to get my cat out of this tree? Not to worry. He knew. I watched him for a little bit, and he knew how to he got down. He's a clever little fellow. Then later on during the day, I'm sitting in my office, which I have this big window in front of my desk where I can look out in the backyard, and I see Pearl climbing a tree. Same thing. Got right out of it. I'm like, oh, who's calling? Spam risk. Okay. We don't answer spam risk calls. Anyway, let's turn the ringer off. So that's the explanation for no animals in the video yesterday, but I have some for you today. Only Stitch would not participate in the walk today because there was so much activity going on at the cell tower. So, yeah. You were expecting some drama, right? Well, oh, what happened to the animals? No, just pitch dark. And this weekend, there is a time change. So what would be 6 o'clock would actually be 5 o'clock in the morning because we're like spring for fall back. So we're going to go back an hour this weekend. Yeah, which means I'm going to be starving by the time it's dinner time. I know. It's all about me, right? Okay, so I'm really excited. Tonight kicks off the miniature event. I will be working on a camper, and we're going to have, it's myself, Tia's Crazy Craft Addictions, and Crashley. And maybe a special guest might be joining us, DP Addiction Adventures. We shall see. She's not going to be participating, but she just wants to cheerlead us on. I'm like, okay, you can join us. So we will be opening those tonight, opening the boxes, seeing what's inside, seeing what it involves, putting together. My understanding is that there's like little projects within the like you have to put each little piece together. So the best way to start is by assembling all the pieces, like getting all the pieces to one project and putting them in a little bag, and then getting all the pieces to the next project and putting them in a little bag. So we're going to start that tonight. Maybe I get to use my tools. I have the tools for it. Yeah, look. Oh my gosh, what a mess back here. Holy moly. I've got my tools, my X-Acto knife, my screwdrivers, my glue. I am ready to rock and roll tonight. Okay. That will be at 7:30 p.m. Central Time. So I think that's all the social stuff. Oh, just a update on the unemployment. Week number 4, I claimed week number 4, and they said, yes, your case is still under review. They have everything they need from you. And I said, okay, just tell me really honest, just be honest with me. In your experience, how long do these take? And she's like, oh, it can be anywhere from weeks to months. They're really backed up. What? But she says, and even if you get a job, they'll pay you everything that you were owed. So in the meantime, you eat bologna sandwiches or whatever. I'm joking. I'm not eating. Well, I like bologna sandwiches, so I do eat bologna sandwiches. Yesterday was peanut butter and jelly on rye. And my sister's like, oh, it was delicious. Anyway, yeah, I'm a weird one. And I told you the other day I baked chocolate chip cookies. Yeah, just what I need, right? Like a hole in the head. Anyway, let's talk about crafting and crime. So let's start with the Delphi murders. I told you that there was going to be a press conference yesterday, and the press conference started about 9 o'clock-ish, and I had just finished recording the show, so I didn't really want to go back over it. So I said, once I tell you what happened at this press conference, you're going to understand why I waited, because there's really nothing that we really didn't already know. So this is the murders of Libby German, who was 14 at the time, and Abigail Williams, who was 13 at the time. They had gone on a little hike on their day off from school and disappeared. They were found the next day, murdered. Their autopsies have been sealed. We do not know how they were murdered. It was just ruled a homicide. This was 5 years ago. 5.5 years ago. Valentine's Day, 5.5 years ago. So it's a press conference yesterday. The police come out and they're puffing up their chests, on Friday. Friday was the day we arrested 50-year-old Richard Allen. But then they went on to explain that the probable cause affidavit. So what they have to do is they have to put together an affidavit with the state attorney does, which he does with the help of the police, which says everything, all the evidence that they have against this person. Then they take it in front of a judge, and the judge reviews it, and if he agrees that there is probable cause to arrest Richard Allen, he says, all right, and he signs the affidavit, or he signs the arrest warrant. So they proceed to tell us that it's sealed. The public does not get to know what's in this affidavit, what evidence they have against this person. So the press conference was basically so they could puff up their chest and thank this person and thank that person and this agency and that agency and everybody that helped and supported them throughout the 5 years. And it was hard work, and but we want you to continue to call in those tips. And I didn't get it. then they opened it up for questions, and every single question was like, "Oh no, we can't answer that. You're getting into the evidence. Oh no, we can't answer that. No, no, we can't answer that." I'm like, "Oh, this is ridiculous." So Richard Allen was charged with 2 counts of murder for the deaths of the 2 girls. He was not given any bond, so he's in jail with no bond. His pretrial hearing he pled not guilty. His pretrial hearing is set for January 13th, and then he has a trial set for March 20th. I've never seen things go this quickly, like where you already have a trial date. I guess that's maybe how they do it in Indiana. Okay, that's interesting, but that's really everything that came out of that press conference. Richard Allen, no bond, 2 counts of murder, January 13th pretrial date, trial date of March 20th, which that's not going to be the real trial date. Come on, that things are going to happen, and but we don't know how they were murdered. We don't know what they have against this guy. It did come out later on through a family member that Richard Allen worked at the CVS pharmacy and had processed photos for Libby. That's all we know. Yeah. And yeah, that's it. So more to come on that. Yes. And I will follow along with whatever leaks out along the way, because it's all sealed, but we're going to figure it out, because that's what we do. We're sleuths. All right, let's talk about the Wagner case that went into day 33. This is the 8th week of this trial. 8 weeks. Yeah. So Jake finished up on Friday. Yesterday, they put on a shoe expert. Now, this is like the expert of experts on footprints. He testified. He's been on national programs, and, he testified in the O.J. Simpson case. He's testified in the Timothy McVeigh. He was the Oklahoma bomber case about footprints. So this guy had to cost a lot of money. And what they did was he was hired to examine bloody footprints found at the crime scenes. Now, let me back up a little. Now, George Wagner is on trial for the murder of 8 members of the Roden family. His brother Jake has already pled guilty, testified against his brother last week. He's serving 8 life sentences. We'll never see the outside of a prison, except for when he comes to trial to testify against his brother. His mother, Angela, is expected to testify Wednesday. She has also pled guilty to these 8 murders, to the conspiracy, helping to plan it, and she was sentenced to 30 years in jail. So we expect her testimony on Wednesday. I don't know if she will opt in or opt out. Now, as you recall, this judge has given each witness the opportunity to opt out, meaning if they don't want to be filmed by the media, cameras have to be shut off. As they were with Jake when he testified, which was very disappointing because I really wanted to see that. So did a lot of people. Anyway, backing up. Okay, so we're back to the shoe expert. So he's hired to examine these bloody footprints, so he testified about this process where, they spray the footprint. There were 4 bloody footprints found at the crime scenes of the Rodens. There was 4 different crime scenes, 4 bloody footprints. They use this spray to enhance the footprint, and then they cut out the flooring around the footprint and just picked up the whole thing. Sent it to this expert. He creates all these molds. He goes to Walmart. He buys the shoes. He creates all these molds. And here's what his conclusion was, that 2 of the 4 bloody footprints were created by a size 11 shoe from this Walmart. And one of the prints came from a size 10.5, and the other fourth print was they couldn't determine. And I'm going to bet you he charged a whole lot of money for that opinion. Yeah. Then we had the more forensic testimony. So I was mistaken. We didn't get to see Jake's testimony, so I've been kind of trying to piece it together through different sources. And my understanding was that, he took the weapons that were involved in the murder, he took them apart, he chopped them up, then tried to blowtorch them, and then put them in the concrete. I thought he meant the concrete, like that they poured the concrete for that barn that they were building, and that's where the guns were. Well, no, what he did was he put them in a bucket and then poured concrete into the bucket and then dropped it into a lake. So he told the police officers exactly where to find this bucket. It was near some kind of, I don't know what they call it, a goose house or something that sits in the middle of the lake. So they send out a dive team. They go down, they retrieve the buckets. Then they hire this guy to actually, like an archaeologist, like chisel out the weapons out of these concrete. It had to have taken him an enormous amount of time to do this. But he chisels it all out, comes up with this, the Glock 40 caliber weapon, and another weapon, and forgive me, I don't remember, I'm not a weapons person. So 2 weapons, but they were able to actually fire the Glock. The firing pin was not damaged by the concrete. And so when the testimony concluded last night, they had the weapons expert on the stand, and he was getting ready to testify as to whether those weapons matched the evidence at the crime scene, the bullets recovered from the victims. So that person is on the stand this morning, and we'll find out, did it match or did it not match? After this guy chisels it all out, is it gonna match? I don't know. Oh my God. All right. Yeah. So I'm supposed to be diamond painting and drinking coffee. Yes, coffee. Yum. So I gotta say, Halloween came and went. No Halloween candy. Oh no, that's not true. I had some candy corn, just a few pieces of candy corn, because that's my favorite. Anyway, yesterday I decided, I'm hemmed and hawed about covering this next case because it's really a political hot potato. But I'm going to keep my political thoughts and views to myself. Some of you know what those are. But this was a crime, and there's likely going to be a federal trial and a state trial against this perpetrator. So I wanted to talk about it, and it deserves the attention that I'm going to give it. And it has to do with political violence. I mean, there's a movement in this country where people feel like it's okay to express their views, their political views, with violence. And yeah. So this gentleman, David DePape, 42 years old, he is seen in this neighborhood in San Francisco. He's seen by a security guard walking down the street. He's wearing dark clothes. He's got a backpack on, and he's walking down the street. And the security guard thought, well, that's kind of, he noticed it, but didn't really report it to anybody. And this is very, very late at night. So David goes up to this house, goes down around the back to the back door, which has some glass. Some of the door is made of glass. He takes a hammer and he breaks the door open. He goes in and he wakes up Paul Pelosi, who is 82 years old. He is upstairs sleeping in his bed. Paul was sound asleep. He's wearing his underwear, his nightshirt, and all of a sudden this guy is standing in his bedroom and he says to him, "I want to speak to Nancy." Now, Paul Pelosi is the husband of Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, like third in line for the presidency. If something were to happen to Biden and his vice president, she would be the president. So she very high up, politically connected Democrat, yes, but Speaker of the House. And he says to Paul, "I'm here to speak to Nancy." So Paul says to him, "Well, she's not here, and I don't expect that she'll be home for several days. What do you want to do?" So the guy says, "Well, I'm very tired from carrying this backpack." I mean, he's 42 after all, right? He says, "So I'm going to tie you up, and I'm going to wait for her to come home, and I'm going to try to get some sleep." So he proceeds to start taking these zip ties out of his backpack. Now, as he's doing this, Paul is getting out of bed, and he actually goes into another part of the house because, he wants to call the police. Now, he actually tries to get into an elevator. They have an elevator in this house. Oh my God. What are we paying these politicians? Holy moly. So they have an elevator in this house. But he's prevented from getting into the elevator by David, but he manages to get into the bathroom. And I guess there's a phone in the bathroom. So some people still have house phones. Maybe in every room of the house. I don't know. Maybe because of who she is, she has phones everywhere. I don't know. But anyway, he gets in the bathroom. He makes a phone call to the police. He lets them know that there's a man in his house, and the police are on the way. So the police proceed to the house. Now, when the police get there, they knock on the door. Now, Pelosi and David are struggling. They're moving towards the door. Paul's trying to get to the door to get it open, and David has a weapon in one hand, a hammer in the other hand. The police open the door. They see that this struggle is going on, that both men have a hand on the weapon. David's holding the weapon. Paul is moving his hand, he's got a hand on the weapon, and they're struggling with the other hand over this hammer. So the police tell David, "Put the hammer down." Now, when they say this, when they tell him to put the hammer down, he grabs the hammer from Pelosi, and then he whacks him upside the head, knocking him unconscious to the floor. Paul Pelosi is taken to the hospital, and as of right now, is still in ICU recovering after having skull surgery. Now, he's expected to make a full recovery, but he's 82 years old. It's going to take a while. So Nancy, she gets on a plane. She rushes to his side. The family is there to support him. David DePape is arrested. He is charged with several federal crimes that involve attacking, the spouse of a politician. He's charged with several state crimes, including, elder abuse and breaking and entering and, the whole nine yards. To my knowledge, he has pled not guilty, and he's still in jail. In the backpack that he had, they found a roll of tape, hammer, gloves, a journal, and a list of other targets. He wasn't done. He was, going to keep going. Now he tells the police during an interview his plan was to wait for Nancy. When she came home, he was going to kidnap her and then talk to her, or tie her up and talk to her, which is essentially, if you tie someone up, you're kidnapping them. And then if she lied to him, he was going to break her kneecaps. Then she would have to be wheeled into Congress, and that would show Congress, it would send a message that there are consequences for your actions. But his hope was that he would get the truth out of her. Now, what truth? I have no idea. They figured out that this guy was residing in a garage over someone's house. They searched his residence. They found a sword and a hammer, a couple of hammers. Apparently that was his weapon of choice, hammers. I don't know a lot about this gun that they were struggling over, whether it was Paul's gun, David's gun, I don't know where this gun came from or where it went. I guess we'll find out about that as this case progresses through the court system. But this is a case I'd like to follow to see if he pleads guilty at some point and there's a deal made, or if this is something that's actually going to go to trial. Now, there's all kinds of, the political ramifications to this attack. The Republicans are saying one thing, the Democrats are saying another, and I choose not to get involved in any of that. I just wanted to give you guys the facts of what happened, and you can form your own opinions, but it's apparent that this guy he participated in these conspiracy theorists, QAnon, and all these crazy conspiracy theorists that are out there. He espoused all of them and supported them. So, okay. So that's what happened. Really interesting, huh? All right, let's find out what happened this day in history. Okay, so in 1950, Harry Truman and his family, he's the president, but he's not living in the White House because the White House is being renovated. So he's living in the Blair House, which is on Pennsylvania Avenue. Now, I think that's where the vice president usually resides, but anyway, he's residing at the Blair House, him and his family. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they hear gunfire at the front of the house. Now, these two men, Grazilio Torres Solo and Oscar Collazo, are firing their weapons. This was so poorly planned on their part. They wanted to assassinate President Truman, but they didn't even know if he was going to be home that day. They were just going to go up to the house and start shooting. Well, they don't get past the Secret Service, the police, everybody that's there guarding the Blair House. One of the officers was mortally wounded. He was a Secret Service agent, Leslie Caulfield, but prior to becoming mortally wounded, he actually managed to kill Torricello. Collazo then, put up his hands and went to jail. But they were political activists and members of the extremist Puerto Rican Nationalist Party, a group fighting for full independence from the United States. The Independentistas, as they were commonly called, targeted Truman despite his support of Puerto Rican autonomy. Yeah, go figure. He was supporting them and they wanted to assassinate him. Yeah. So Truman apparently just goes on about his day. He's unfazed by the whole thing. He kept his scheduled appointments that day. And he says, as president, you have to expect these things. Yeah. So, this just goes to show you that I guess political violence is not new. Is it escalating? What are your thoughts? Even back in 1950, people were trying to express their political views through violence. But I don't know that it was as common as it is today. Now, that's my opinion. I think it's escalating. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. So, that's the show for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the content. Please don't forget to give the thumbs up, subscribe, and don't forget, if you want to watch, even if you're not participating in this miniature event and you just want to watch some fun and craziness, tonight at 7:30, Tina's Crazy Craft Addictions, Crafts with Crashley, and myself will be kicking off this little event. I don't know if it's an event so much as it's just a craft along. So we're trying something new, something I have never done. I'm a little scared because everything's so tiny and I've got these great big hands. So, we'll see. Come see how it's going to work out. Come at 7:30 and take a look. I'll see you guys. Take care. If not, tomorrow in Crafting and Crime Daily. Bye.